was a big fan of I'm More Dangerous Than You a few years ago. I remember seeing Ping Sheng and just drooling over her. The character designs were neat and everything, so I took interest in the other works that the author did. And when I was looking, I stumbled upon Manipulate My Heart. The clips I saw off on TikTok looked interesting, and I love my toxic Yuri, so I went to find the chapters, but there was none translated. I thought it was weird because I know that usually popular authors would get their works translated immediately, so I did some snooping and stumbled upon this Reddit post. I was surprised. So I snooped a bit deeper and went into this Twitter thread by True Zero Bew. Sorry if I'm fucking this name up. But it was wild. Reading through the threads and texts just made me even more disgusted. So I'll say to be careful when watching this video if it is triggering to you, since this does have mentions of grooming and sexual content. So there are 3 parts of this thread. The first 2 are from the translator of I'm More Dangerous Than You, Thurman, and the third one was by a victim of the author who decided to reach out to True Bew after seeing her thread. In the first part, we meet the translator, Thurman, who explains her side a bit. She does mention that she was afraid of the backlash she would face, and how she did lie a little bit about her personal information to the author, Anda. She felt as though because she lied that it wouldn't validate her words and texts that we're about to see. So the story begins when they first met in 2021, when Thurman reached out to Anda. Later on, Thurman offered to translate her novel for free on Wattpad. Now being friends, Thurman suggested and contributed to ideas for Anda's work and social media, which now became her novel, Manipulate My Heart. Their friendship lasted a while, and both had a strong friendship where Anda was comfortable enough to talk about her exes, one of them being an underage girl when she was in her 20s. But being blinded by being friends with a popular author, she stayed silent. It wasn't until 2 years later that it hit her that Anda wasn't that much of a good person, and now we move on to the screenshots of her conversations with Anda. The conversations were translated by Thurman. I won't be reading all the text since there's a lot, but feel free to pause to read them. I will also have the Twitter thread linked below if you want to look at them yourself. But the first screenshot is Anda confirming that her ex was 16, and because of her ex, people around 14 to 16 years old leaves a bad taste in her mouth. The other screenshot is about how her ex would be the same age as Thurman at that time, and how Thurman and Anda has a 6-year age gap. We see that Anda admits that she also slept with a minor as well at her dorm. But here's the thing, it gets worse. And even here, when I was reading the text we're about to see, I was just thinking to myself, like, what the fuck? Like, simple research would prove everything that Anda thinks wrong. So Anda starts talking about the first time she did it with her ex, and how she was loose down there. She tries to kind of excuse her actions by blaming her first love who used to sleep around. Thurman then tries to explain, saying that what Anda felt was irrelevant to one's sexual experience, which Anda tries to defend herself even more, which is, I can't. There's more screenshots of Anda trying to excuse herself, but Thurman does bring up that unless that person had undergone surgery or have given birth, nothing will change. Anda then just says that she just doesn't like those type of bodies where they're loose. Guys, I think I'm going insane. After Anda said, because she started telling me that she had a lot of exes, it made me feel repulsive. Like, it felt that she was showing off herself, though I never say it out loud. So I started deducting marks for her. Guys, deducting marks? Like points? Like marks? Like, oh, guys, y'all, let me tell you something. If you love your partner, you love them for who they are. It doesn't matter how many people they've slept with or anything. When you love someone, love them with no restrictions. if you act like this isn't love, but lust. And just quote unquote deducting marks is just disgusting. But anyway, sorry, that's my thoughts on that. Later, Anda starts saying that she gets icked out by kids, quote unquote, who aren't grown up yet. Which, as a 20-year-old, well, she was like 24, I'm a 20-year-old, but even as a 20-year-old, you shouldn't even be looking at 16-year-olds like that. Oh my god. Thurman then tells us that this was referring to her underage fans as well as her relationship back then. But then Thurman shows us texts about how her ex apologized to Anda and how they made up, which made Thurman feel like she was overreacting since the kid was apologizing and they both seemed okay with the relationship. But I just wanted to add something since I showed this to Lily and presented it to her, and Lily said she wasn't surprised that the minor was apologizing to Anda because the minor was groomed. So I just wanted to add that, like, that part. Anyways, now we go into the second part where Anda responded to the accusations of her being a groomer. Anda tries defending herself by asking how a reader can get into a Chinese app without a Chinese number, how she was trying to act nice to her readers, and that as a lesbian she prefers older women, which was proven wrong. On Instagram, Thurman shows texts about how Anda doesn't get how people can like older women and how she likes ones younger than her. Next screenshot, we see Anda and Thurman talking about a Vietnamese girl Anda started seeing, the Vietnamese girl being 18 while Anda was 24. But I think it makes it bad since Anda thought of her as a kid as well, since she was calling Thurman a kid, being the same age as the Vietnamese girl. Later, Anda was saying how she wished they only met a few years earlier when there was no pandemic, but Thurman did call her out, saying that if it was 2 years ago, the Vietnamese girl would have been 16 years old, which Anda responded with, so lewd. Oh my god. Anyways, Thurman then asked what happened to being a goody two-shoes, which also, like the translation says, where's your morals? It's like a whole thing, which Anda responds saying, what is it? I'm only imagining it. Plus, it's not illegal. I have no words. I literally have no words. But then we get back onto WeChat. Anda asks why there aren't any legal lesbian brothels and how she would be a frequent customer if there was, which Thurman brings up Holland's red light district and how Anda can become a sugar mommy. Anda then responds saying, I really want to be a sugar mommy to only those 18-year-olds. This year, they're 18. And then Thurman does call her out, asking if she was but Anda kept going on saying that once they're 19 next year, she'll throw them away and find another 18-year-old. Okay, now here, I literally am like speechless on what we're gonna see next, because I just want to know like what's going up in that mind. But Anda mentions that she only hooks up with masked/butch women because she thinks that they are cleaner. She goes in deeper, saying she only hooks up with those kind of chubby ones and short, or ones that are ugly because they have less experience, and that they're easy to control. If you guys could see my face right now. But that wraps up part 2 out of 3. Now, part 3 is by someone who reached out to TrueView. She was 15 while Anda was 24, and they used WeChat to text. I don't know who translated this, but this was also translated. I will say that the 15-year-old was also egging Anda on, for example, asking why she was still seeing clothes when she wanted a nude pic. But remember, minors cannot consent. Anda was in a position of power, especially being a popular Yuri author, so please do not attack the minor in this situation. But in their text, Anda would be sharing nudes and sending not safe for work art to the minor. But she would also ask the 15-year-old to F her, which I have no words. Even here, she's telling the minor to F her senselessly. There's even more screenshots, but here's what kind of caught my attention the most. She says right here, "Why am I telling a 15-year-old this?" To me, it seems like she knows what she's saying is wrong, like it hit her that she shouldn't be saying this. But then, she blames it on how Westerners joke around without any consequences? Like what? Anyways, after she shares a screenshot of Moonlight Garden to the 15-year-old and tells her some inappropriate stuff. But next screenshot, the minor tells her that she can ask her anything and she'll answer truthfully. Guys, Anda asks, "Did you do it today?" Like guys, this reminds me of those men who would be like, "Let's play 21 questions." And the woman would ask like a regular ass question, but then the man hits her with the, "What color is it?" Oh my god. Anyways, back to the screenshot. They start talking about more inappropriate stuff that I know for sure I cannot say and I can't show. So you would have to look at those yourself. But it basically talks about shooting something inside, if you catch my drift. But the rest of the texts are just asking and sending nude pics. This whole situation is just wild. Like, even writing the script, I'm literally disgusted. But here's my thought. Even though I said my thoughts throughout the video, I truly believe that these are real. Not only do we have videos of the texts, but anyone can get on WeChat and use Chinese apps. Anda said that only Chinese citizens can get and use Chinese apps, but I literally have WeChat for my grandparents, and I also have Douyin, Xiaohongshu, Bilibili, and others. You can literally use Chinese apps if you're outside of China. Some apps might be hard to figure out, but if there's a will, there is a way. So for her to say that is questionable to me because she knows how to also get Instagram in China as well. So she knows that people can use VPNs and other stuff to bypass restricted places. But here's the thing that a lot of people would say to me when I show them this. Separate the art from the artist. And I sometimes find myself doing that. But with Anda, I just can't. A lot of her works do have those big age gap and toxic ideals I can see her having as a person from these texts. Another argument people use is that China's age of consent is 14, so it's legal. But this is where your morals and ethics lie. If unaliving people were legal, would it still be okay? Of course, this is a very intense and different question and scenario, but this shows your morals and ethics. And to me, a 15 and 16-year-old are still children, they're minors. And being 24 years old, Anda and those kids are in very different stages of life. People also try to excuse her actions by saying she's neurodivergent, which shouldn't be an excuse. I think it's a known thing to not be talking with minors sexually as an adult. And when people try to excuse these actions with this excuse, I do feel like they are reaching. But I'm just going to wrap this up though, since I think I've said and covered all I needed to cover and say. But I do want to remind you, and maybe you won't like hearing this, celebrities, idols, authors, artists, and even though I'm not a celebrity or an artist or anything, even me, like, I am not your friend. I am a person behind a screen you enjoy listening to, but I'm not your friend and neither are celebrities. But don't get me wrong, I do love interacting with everyone, but there is a boundary. And celebrities and all these other people are just people who are trying to do their job, even if they're being friendly. Also, I just want to apologize. I'm sorry that this isn't my typical video, but I really do want to talk about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.